We are back, and I'm getting ready to speak with Kurt Linderman. He hosts Linderman Unleashed on Natural News Radio, which comes on right after the Alex Jones Show, and it has to do with vaccines and vaccine injuries. So let's talk to Kurt. Well, Kurt, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Melissa. Thanks for having me on.
And real quick, do you want to show people your shirt?
Yeah.
Real quick. Instead of conspiracy theorist, it says conspiracy. What does it say down there?
Realist.
Realist. It's a good shirt. Okay, well, first I thought I might ask you, your website is viralsepidemic.com, and I thought I might ask you, what does virals stand for?
Well, it's an acronym that my wife brought up, and it stands for, we believe that our children that are vaccine injured aren't actually autistic, like the doctors want to claim.
Like the 1 in 88 or something?
Well, autism, the real definition of autism that came down with Dr. Connor back in the 40s is still 1 in 10,000. What we have now is virals, which is an acronym for vaccine-induced regressive autistic-like symptoms.
Okay, yeah. Do you think on that it's actually the age of the kids and the number of vaccines? Because I know we here in the U.S., we have like the most aggressive vaccine schedule in the world. Do you think that it's that, or do you think it's all of the adjuvants and the different chemicals, formaldehyde and thimerosal, that they put in these vaccines, or do you think it's a combination?
I think it's a combination of everything. There's people out there that still just say it's the mercury in the vaccines and that's it, and vaccines are great if you don't put the mercury in it, and that's a load of crap, to be honest with you. You've got the aluminum, you've got the mercury, you've got the polysorbate 80, which is a carcinogen and a neurotoxin. You've got MSG in it. A lot of your gelatins and your peanut oils and everything. You're getting the severe allergies from the vaccines. There's so many things going on inside that vaccine, and synergistically, when you put aluminum and mercury together, it becomes a heck of a lot more toxic. So it's a combination of everything. And then you look at our American diet, and the kids are already immune compromised when they're getting these vaccines. So it's just a cumulative effect where there's just so much damage done that the vaccine schedule, the real intense vaccine schedule that we have here in America and many other Western nations like in the European Union, you have that intensive vaccine schedule that's just the straw that breaks the camel's back. I think GMOs play a role in autism as well.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I also think it's interesting how there's formaldehyde in vaccines, and you see all these public service announcements all the time that say smoking is bad for you because there's formaldehyde and that causes cancer, but yet somehow it's totally fine to shoot up a baby with formaldehyde.
Exactly, and shoot them up with, sometimes 5, 6, 7 shots at one time.
Right. Well, actually, that kind of takes me into the next topic. You actually have a personal story about your son involving multiple vaccines. I didn't know if you wanted to share that with the people.
Well, it was a catch-up schedule, which is very typical. And my son had ear infections, and the doctor was hesitant to vaccinate him while he had a fever and was sick. So when he finally got healthy, come in and not only get what he was due, but what he had been due. And it was a total of 6 vaccines, but it was 6 shots, but it was actually 11 different vaccines because of the combination vaccines. And it was immediate. I took in a walking, talking, beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed baby boy that was above the curve. And within hours, he had the fever. And within a day or two, he was completely gone. No talking, couldn't walk, failure to thrive, the whole 9 yards.
I hope you don't mind if I share this with you, but I actually have kind of a similar story. I had missed a doctor's appointment for my daughter when she was 2, and I took her in, and they wanted to catch her up on vaccinations, and they gave her 5 shots at one time, but it was actually, I'm not even familiar with exactly how many vaccines it was, but it was definitely more than 5. And she seemed to cry for probably 3 days after that. She had a fever. She was inconsolable. And after that, I mean, like you said, she was walking, she was talking, she was fine. And then we got all of these shots given to her, and she was just like a different child. And I actually wanted to ask you, I hope this is an okay question to ask, have you had to deal with the guilt on that? Because I feel guilty all the time when I think about my daughter. I didn't know any better, and I know you didn't know any better either, but it's like, how do you deal with that?
Well, people deal with it in different ways. The guilt's a huge thing with me and my wife. And that's why I do my radio program. That's why I've got the website. That's why I do my writing. I write for InfoWars at times. I'm constantly an activist, not just an advocate for my child, but an activist. And I'm kind of like paying it forward. I feel so guilty for my lack of responsibility that I took for my child. And I'm trying to pay it forward by helping to save maybe a couple more children along the way, as I'm also doing biomedical treatment and homeopathic treatment for my son to try to get him better. And he's doing wonderful now. But I think that's where my passion comes from with my radio program and everything else, is trying to pay it forward and trying to deal with some of that guilt, because it's guilty. Because when you think about the fact that parents will spend more time researching a mattress or a crib
I know
or a
it.
car seat,
I know it.
but they won't research the vaccines because it's that blind trust we
I
have
had it too.
in the medical industrial complex.
I had that blind trust too, and I think about that sometimes. At the time, I did what I was told. I thought it was the right thing to do, and sometimes when I think about that, I get pretty emotional. But I really appreciate what you've done and what you are doing, and I think what you're doing it really is like a blessing in disguise. It's the silver lining that you're able to come out and educate people and help them like you are. It's really, really important work.
Well, and I'll tell you, Melissa, if I can turn into the interviewer for just one question, would you be where you are right now if it hadn't been for your daughter's vaccine injury?
I would say that's probably very accurate. It definitely got me to start distrusting blindly, trusting the government as I had been doing. It definitely got me to start reading books. I started reading so many books after that, and I felt so angry for such a long time. I felt so duped, and there are still days when I look at my daughter and I feel nothing but just anger, and it definitely pushes me to do what I do now. So definitely, yeah. I was actually going to ask you, switching gears just a little bit, do you think that there's a prevalence of people who are just really unaware about the fact that they can do exemptions? Because we get calls here at our show all the time from parents who say, no, it's mandatory. And I know even in Missouri, where we used to live, my daughter's school used to send us forms all the time saying, this is mandatory. If you don't give your child this shot, your child cannot attend school. And they really make you think that you have no other option.
Well, I actually have a horse ranch here in Missouri now, and that's where I'm calling from right now. And it comes to being an educated parent, because the school system where I live, they'll tell all the other parents it's mandatory. But the fact of the matter is, with me, what they do is the school nurse calls. I've got 3 kids in the school system, and the school nurse will call and say, I'm sending the exemption form. All you have to do is sign it and send it back. So it's a matter of parents being educated. There is no mandatory vaccines right now. They are mandated, but all states have at least a medical exemption. Mississippi and West Virginia are the only states that have only a medical exemption. The other states have either medical, religious, or philosophical.
Right. Actually, I have a story about that too that I'd like to share with you. When living in Missouri, I went to get the exemption forms. They actually put you through a whole process, at least at the county I was in, where they sent a nurse out with pamphlets to try and inform me of what a bad parent I was being, and she got into an argument with me over it, and it took me an hour just to get that form. Have you heard of stories like that?
Oh, I've heard stories, and that's where my advocacy comes in. I've got parents that call me all the time, and literally, when I walk in the door, the school officials and the health department officials throughout this area of my state and Western Illinois cringe, because they know they're done because I know the law. And
Good.
That's really what it is. I've offered with any parent within a 50-mile radius of my house, if any parent wants me to walk into a pediatrician's office with them or walk into the school system with them, I'll be happy to do it free of charge.
Oh man, I hope people take you up on that. Actually, I was going to mention also recently, I know in New Jersey, Senate Bill 1759 they passed saying that they need to place a greater burden on parents to clarify their valid reason for exempting their child, further defining and restricting what the definition of a valid reason even is. Like, they're trying to basically make it impossible for parents to get vaccine exemptions there in New Jersey. And actually, I've read stories too where they make parents testify. They actually go to a court and make them testify that they have a religious right or what their valid reason is. And I guess other states are actually following suit. Have you heard of that?
Well, absolutely, because actually that New Jersey law that they're trying to pass is just mimicking the law that's already passed in California and Washington State. AB 2109, I believe it is, in California. I've covered that on my radio show. And if you want a personal belief exemption, which California kind of ties up the religious and philosophical all into one, which is called a personal belief exemption. Now you have to go to a doctor and let them decide whether your personal belief is good enough.
Wonderful.
And to me, that is just, that's an affront to the Constitution. But there's so many states out there that could care less about the Constitution anyways. It's just knowing your rights. It's saying, whatever my religion is, it's freedom of religion. It's not freedom of being a Baptist or a Catholic or a Methodist or a Jew or a follower of Islam. It is simply my freedom of any religion I pick. And it's none of your business what my religion is. And that's the way you've got to confront them.
Definitely, I agree with you. Well, in closing, do you have any other advice for parents out there when it comes to these vaccines and vaccine exemptions?
Know your rights. There's plenty of books out there. There's plenty of internet articles and websites out there. Know your rights. Know what you're putting into them. Spend at least double the time that you spend on what kind of baby food you're going to give them, what kind of crib you're going to buy or car seat you're going to buy. Spend at least double that looking into the vaccines. Do not trust the medical professionals because they don't know anything either. The ones on the ground, the pediatricians out there, I guarantee you, I could just bury any of them when it comes to issues about vaccines, because I know what I'm talking about, and every parent should do the same.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Kurt. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate it.
I think we should take Kurt's warnings pretty seriously. I mean, he's right. People spend a lot more time researching the television set they're going to buy than they do researching these vaccines that our government tells us we need to shoot our kids up with, which have a much farther reaching implications. It's terrible. So we definitely need to take what he said seriously and look into that. I implore everybody to do so. Anyway, when we get back from break, we're going to air the conclusion to the 5-part series between pharmacist Ben Fuchs and Dr. Joel Wallach. And so stick around.